Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be host today on Archery Talk 101, and we have a special guest on the line with us. We're going to talk archery and maybe some other things to go along with it. So I just want to let you know that besides on Spotify, where you get your podcast, you can also listen to it on Audible. And then in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group, we go live in that. And then also upload it to my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself. So multiple ways to go back and view this, watch it later, and get to watch what's going on. So welcome to the show. And I'm going to let our guest introduce himself and tell us a little something about himself so we get to know him.
Yep, this is Dorge from Firenock. Believe it or not, I would call myself the archery mad scientist. I started archery back in 1988, and then do all my stuff that everybody did until I retired in 2005. Then I started Firenock in 2006. That's pretty much it. And the rest is history, because when I started archery, I started really applying my scientific background. And next thing you know, I got awarded 43 US utility patents in archery.
Oh,
in less than 13 years. It was really funny because I always told people when you get a patent, it's not that you are smarter, it's the people around you have not done anything. That's how bad it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I'm in banking, when I'm in doing computer, like I'm one of the inventor of powerful Ethernet. In order to get the patent so tight, I had to give out so much, so we technically lost that patent to Cisco. And just like when I did the banking over, say, do the banking over internet, that actually is one of my original patents in banking. Well, guess what? Chase pretty much, back then it's called First Chicago. Then you become Chase, pretty much just paying me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I invented a three-way matching system in banking. That is in 1993. So I did a lot of others. I sprinkle. That's what I do. Besides doing some project with Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of Education, and also Department of Energy. That's what I did, a lot of consulting work.
Cool.
Now I'm in archery.
So what got you started in archery?
Well, I got bored really back then. You know, I besides archery, fishing is my passion. I mean, I remember back when I was 18 years old, I was the chairman of Garcia Abu of Asia. It was actually run by a company called Job Jam Lao. I was teaching in Hong Kong youth when I was 16 to 17 years old on fishing. So I get really involved. But my dad told me, whatever you do, whatever you learn is not enough. So I go to college, got a few degrees out of there. I went to Bloomington, Indiana in IU. I got 4 degrees out of there, then turn around to IUPO, I got 2 more. And then go to other places and get a few more certificate, like my PMP, my CPA, my CSA. I got quite a few.
Constantly learning.
Oh, that's exactly, because see, as I always believe, if you don't know something, either ask the best or get a degree that's recognized by others, so you have a voice that is worth listening to. Because when you work with government contract, your credential is everything. They don't know me from Jack. I showed up. What does that mean? I remember when I was first time I was doing construction with my PMP. I was with the Sears Vice President of Construction, George Shaw. I was 23 years old, and he thought I was in my 40s. So because of my position.
Yeah, a little bit off on the age, wasn't he?
Yeah, but think about it. I was chief technology officer and chief operation officer of Saw Creation. That's a $12 million a year operation. And I'm the second guy in charge of IT and operation, both. I turned 23 that year. As you can see, all my mentor, like Mr. Bill Brewer, told me I'm an overachiever. But I say no, I just want to have my share, and I will grab everything knowledge I could.
Well, they say knowledge is power, and if you know something somebody else doesn't, well, you got the power, right?
Well, actually, just like when I remember when I was in Cyclotron with Dr. Tim Ellison, he was teaching me a lot, and I keep on grabbing a few more degrees. And then I was supposed to get my quantum physics nuclear PhD out of Bloomington, but in 1986, National Science Foundation cut funding. I say, forget this. So I go back to IU. I was supposed to get an MBA. Then I say, well, what's the point? So I get a computer science and a marketing degree. Then I had to IUPOI. I was grabbing my ME and EE too. So I got quite a few academic degree, but really helped me because see, you can't be bullshit that easily because you know what can be done and what needs to be done.
Right.
Then of course I go into accounting. I was working with Paul Pantron. That back then he is the G17 people out of Washington D.C. as a national auditor with General Accounting Office. Yep, I dive deep into it. I become the national expert on fund accounting, general fund accounting, and general accounting, principal fund accounting. So I say, what the hell? So I go ahead and get my CPA, my CSA.
Get all those letters behind your name.
I got enough. Then, of course, I get my PMP. I got my Novell 3Com. I got my MSCE on all the computer side. Then I got my DBA. I did not get my finance certification because I don't see the reason behind it because I never handle the money that I can do it. I'm too black and white. That's not a good idea. Just like when I went to DeKalb for law school, I talked to the dean in law. He said, "You'll never be a good lawyer." I say, "Why?" "You have your principle, and law should not have any. It's your position of your client only." I say, "Well, that's right." So I just went through law school. I never get the bar and be done with it.
Well, that's true. If you have principles, you can't represent somebody you know is guilty. So, yeah.
I can't even represent myself because sometimes I know I'm just straight out wrong. Then I lost already. I remember the time I was talking to the dean of law school, and he was really, he pretty much, we have a small discussion because I was in my 40s. He said, "Dorge, let me ask you a straight question." He said, "What do you mean before you proceed?" I say, you want to argue a cup is half empty or half full. I said, "There's nothing to argue. Half is half." They say, "No, then you really don't want to be a good lawyer." You say, "Why?" "Because it's intent and point of view." It took me a long time to understand what that discussion is. Because the person who declared the bottle is half empty, his intention is to empty it. And the person who says half full, his intention is to fill it. And in law, that's exactly 180-degree difference. That's between a capital punishment and say a manslaughter. You can be slapped on the hand or go to jail for the rest of your life. That's the difference. And it took me a while to swallow that in. I say that's not for me because I can't do that. Which made me a lot easier to get the patent because I wrote most of my own patents. And then I go to a good buddy, Donald Ersner. He is a really good lawyer on the final paperwork. So I wrote all the stuff, I draw the diagram, and then he would just go ahead and put it in a nice English format and submit it. Otherwise, you won't be able to afford. You know how expensive U.S. patent to acquire one cost?
No, I've never heard.
If you've got a really good lawyer, your average is $200 to $600 an hour. Your average is 40 hours per patent to submit. Then if you got a 1 or 2 office action, you double that or triple that. So that average patent, if you do not know what's going on, you figure with submission paper and everything should cost you between $30,000 to $60,000 if you want to get it.
But if you got the right patent, you can make a whole lot more than that back.
Not true. That's another mistake. The U.S. patent that they sell, if you look at it since 2005, Three, the US patent is over 10 million. Okay. Patents are only as good as you can defend it.
Right.
See, the US patent law is written to the point that it is not the right to make, it's right to prevent others from making or marketing it.
Yeah.
And not to mention, the patent is exactly what the word is. It's not, remember, in patent law, the word or N and or is identical too. So A and B and A or B in US patent law is the same word.
Interesting.
See, but yes, that's the reason a lot of people say that, oh, I will get a patent. When you get a patent, don't mean that you're printing money. 90% of the patent out there, I do mean 90% of the patent out there, the only thing the person do is have a patent and never turn into anything. Because first of all, the person will not have the ability to market, the ability to build. Now, first of all, ability to manufacture from a concept product to a finished product. 90% of people cannot do that. Second, when the product finally is made, how do you market it? I mean, I got a marketing degree from IU, so I fully understand the power of marketing. Most people cannot market it. So even you got a great product, you need to get the words out. If you do not get the words out, the time it become a consumer recognized product is 7 years. The normal is 3 years. And in case of archery, you quadrupled it. Do you know why? See, a normal consumer product will take 3 years to be recognized. But a consumer archery product will take 4 times if you do not market it like crazy. Do you know why it is the case? It took me a long time to digest that. Because I say, wait a minute, it doesn't apply to the marketing degree, marketing theories.
Right.
Because archery only have 3 months in a year, actively.
Right. Yeah.
So you need to 4 times it.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know what? All the background that we talk about is actually where the stage of archery we are in today. We've got products that may not actually work, but it's being marketed so well, people buys. But does it really help your archery? That's a whole different story.
Right.
I mean, it's like selling ice to Eskimos. That's how I feel in today's archery. Do we really have products that actually have benefit? Well, let me give you an example. On the number one product that everybody buys, do you want to make a wild guess based on my limited knowledge? How many broadhead we make as human actually kill deer? That means we make say 5 million broadhead last year. How many of them actually see blood and kill deer?
Probably a very small percentage.
It's less than 0.1%. No, sorry, 0.01%.
Well, I have probably 2 or 3 dozen broadheads, and they don't all kill deer. So they don't get shot.
Even if you bought it, most people haven't shot it. When they shot it, they usually if they shot through a deer, does it actually kill deer?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's just like, can you imagine? It's like, I remember my early days, whenever the best I bought a whole set of, say, Hanko's 5-star knives. Do I really need that whole set? Until the end of the day, there's only 3 knives I use of that whole block of 12. So should I just bought that 3 instead of bought the whole set of 12, which I know that 9 of them have never, ever, ever been used.
Yeah, I've been out, had just like 3 arrows in my quiver and run out of arrows, still had tags, and no, and deer keep walking by. It's like, I always like to carry
Well,
it.
in the old days of
never know.
archery, I remember the Oneida days or the Indian Exide days.
Right.
Yes, you need a 6-arrow quiver because everything just works so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are about the same age. You can imagine back in the 1980s, just to get an arrow with a broadhead to fly right, you've got to be doing something serious.
Right. Yeah, it took me a while. You know, I shoot muzzies and blade, and I have mine set up so that I can tune my arrows so they fly consistently. Now they don't fly like my field tips, but I don't care because that's the bow I hunt with. I have one I shoot target with, so I shoot target arrows out of it. But I have a little U-bar on it, a little cone-shaped washer, and a little rubber O-ring, and I can dial it in, tighten it up, loosen it up, get the perfect alignment so they all group the same. And then, of course, I mark them with a light marker so I can make sure they got lined back up. And
I learned. You know, I'm a musky 3-blade broadhead. That's what I killed my big first Firenock deer, the 17 point on my catalog, on my products. That's the one I killed. I learned one thing: you do not. I see that. I remember I talked to Terry out of Archery Custom, out of Forest Park. He said, "Dorge, you have the fastest bow ever made. You shoot a 25-inch arrow with a 29-inch draw with a 6-inch overdraw." You remember those days, overdraw crazy?
Yeah,
I'm the guy. Yep. My arrow shooting like a freaking 22 rifle goes off. You know what he told me? In order to shoot that right, I need to lower my front of center and use musky glue on, not screw on. I end up buying musky glue on. So I tune all my broadhead with my arrow, every one of them. And every time I shoot it, I change the blades. They all finally fly right. Because back then, the furrow and the musky body are never matched perfectly. So he told me if I want the arrow to fly, because back in 1990s, my bow was shooting 305. It was crazy because I just tuned the sucker to the point of like, you know, I was borderline dry firing the bow because my arrow is what with the broadhead on it is I was shooting 70-pound bow, my arrow is 370 grain. Shooting an Indian XI, you can see the first machine riser
arrows are. About 370 grains, shooting 70 pounds.
Right. So you know, remember they say 6 grain per inch back then in the 1980s to 90s. I remember I shot my first actual dead buck. No, that was first one. The buck wasn't lucky. It was exactly 20-yard broadside. That's the reason I killed it. That back in 1993. That was my first kill. I started hunting in 1988. So we are talking 5 years into hunting before I even killed my first deer. I shot a lot of deer, and none of them make the deer. That's how bad it is.
I think I hunted about 5 years before I killed my first one.
See, the equipment today, if you got somebody know what they're doing, they help you out, is really so much easier. It's like the days that I remember my first car, it was a stick shift with clutch and everything. Now, you got a freaking automatic and everything handled.
I can remember learning on a stick shift, and then how do you navigate the hills? You know, because you gotta try to hold them, and yeah.
I remember I lived in Bloomington, Indiana back then, and I lived on the hilly side with a stick shift trying to start the car backwards. Just packed it. Oh gosh! I mean, I was surprised I didn't burn the clutch. But those other days, I remember. That's back in 1986. Yeah, that's not far ago.
Yeah, and then you know, mostly through high school, I had a Camaro, I had a 69 Z28 Camaro that I drove. That was a 4-speed, and it, you know, stick shift. Then they come out with automatics, but they weren't near the car.
No, you remember you had to pay at least $600, if not $1,200 for the automatic. It's an option. Remember that.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the Z28. I think he had an option of a 4-speed Muncie or 4-speed Muncie on the Z28. Yeah, there was no other option on that one. I know.
See, there is no option for my Ford Fiesta. It's 4-stick speed on nothing. That car went through college with me. Well, what can I say? Well, okay. So I know you with Archery Talk now. I mean, I used to post a lot in Archery Talk, but I used to even be a sponsor on Archery Talk. But you know, as I learn more and more, the stuff is getting so technical. Talking on a forum sometimes is just not enough.
Yeah, and I run this one, Archery Talk 101, a little bit different. You know, we're not selling products or promoting products per se. You know, when I do podcasts like this, if you have a product, then we promote them that way. But we don't sell stuff in that group. It's more content. You know, where
I like that.
where you have questions, you get your questions answered. You know, if you want to sell products, there's many other places you can go to sell products.
I absolutely agree.
And that's why I set it up this way. And you know, I get
Mhm.
people will still post stuff for sale, and they proceed to get their post deleted.
Mhm.
And my other
I
group,
thought
they
like
get banned right away. But
which is
that was fun.
the right way to do it. You know, back then when archery talk, we got really good what you call it administrators. I think that sort of all changed by about 2007 or 8. I think it's a little bit different now. So I stopped posting and stopped doing because I wanted to go into a lot of discussion. But then I was thinking sharing was what the intent is. I mean, just like you may not know, I run a YouTube called Firenock TV, and I also work with a group, the Exodus Outdoor, and we do a lot of podcasts on the deer gear. So for that, I go really technical with it because that is what was for. Really deep dive physics, engineering, material science discussions. And I think that itself, I've got all my viewers, listener coming to me with technical questions. I get enough of it, I will do a discussion, a deep dive discussion. Because I think archery right now is really getting a lot more technical than most people recognize.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of information is actually given the wrong way. And most of them have no true scientific background. They were just given. Have they proved it? Have they actually used it? And if they use it, is it used repeatedly? Just like if I invent something, first thing I publish it. I got everybody able to repeat my experiment and get the same result before my theory become quote unquote validated.
right.
There's no such thing in archery. It's who say who did what. It must be good.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways of doing stuff, and you know, just in your form, there's many ways of doing a form, and the big key is you got to be consistent, and each of us each of us instructors have your own way of doing it so that we can be consistent. And when I'm going to teach you how I do it, and then we're going to modify it based on what works for you.
I agree with that. That because at the end of the day, unless you go into crossbow, the basic formation, the form of an archer. I mean, just like when I first have that long, actually the two person I talk with the most is the first one is Rod White, the Olympic gold medalist, and the other person I just do a lot of discussion back then is with Gene Burnsworth. He also run a Western hunt show. The guy is really, both of them are extremely smart and extremely educated. So I have a lot of discussion with them, and then I go from there and deep dive. I end up getting a high-speed camera, getting lab radar system, getting ballistic system to test. And then in the case of them, when I don't understand the stuff, I just simply straight out. I mean, I actually got Professor Salick out of Central Illinois as my advisor permanently. I hired him as my permanent advisor because I really think that the archery is getting closer to more involved with aerodynamics than everybody ever imagined. Because see, just like most of the normal archer, they really do not understand how arrow flies. That itself is such an intense topic. Most people have no idea. And the moment when I recognize it, I actually got 14 US patents just on how arrow behave and how to counter it. I mean, as simple as, I mean, it's like, do you know that most of the theory we have in the archery world is based on stick bow, not compound bow, not high left compound bow, based on aluminum arrows, not carbon arrows.
And they all act differently.
No, it's fundamentally polar opposite.
Yeah.
And just like one simple fact, I'll just share with you on this one. Just talk about it. Do you know that in the old days, on the 2219 aluminum, which we all started with,
right,
that arrow have a duration time on it. That means if you use the full spine of the 2219, you get 72 to 80 shots out of that arrow, and it's done.
Yep.
But then also, that arrow is tunable by floating, Do you know why you can float tune it?
Because one side's going to be where the seam is going to be a little bit heavier.
Correct. And because at the same time, the spine is linear. And you also have what you call a neutral plane. That means the arrow will flex through this neutral plane on this entire flight path. Now imagine this. You are doing now. Can you make a carbon arrow do exactly what the aluminum arrow does? Yes, yes. But you will cost 14 times as much. So far, I own 2 of the patent to do that. So nobody on earth can do that arrow that will flex the same as aluminum besides me. But most people do not need that. It's a technical challenge to myself. You need to understand when the current days when we make a carbon arrow, every arrow flex, not just up and down, but also left and right. That means the arrow will not just flex up and down, you also longitudinally fork. And to make things worse, do you know when the arrow flex and a carbon arrow flex, it do not flex like aluminum through a neutral plane. It will flex in an off-center arc, which now gives you a true elliptical orbital flex flying pattern.
Interesting. I've seen slow motion videos of arrows going off, and they just do. It's amazing how much they're flexing and moving around. And
all right, now to make things even worse, do you know that when you shoot a carbon arrow, okay, since the spine of a normal aluminum arrow is linear, just like the seam, the opposite of the seam is where you flex the weakest, because that is called the weakest point of flex. It's down, straight down. So in other words, if your flex is 6 o'clock, your seam is 6 o'clock, your flex point is going to 12 o'clock all the way down. But in a carbon arrow, do you know where your flex would look like? I did enough tests to finally find out. In the case of most gold tip arrows, like the Pro Hunter, it flexes between from front to back around a 40-degree difference. That means you start at 12 o'clock at the front of the 32-inch shaft. After the 32-inch, the flex point is around your 4 o'clock or your 8 o'clock position. That means when you flex it, the entire arrow torque. So what is the center flex point? It gets interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because remember, it depends on how you cut it. The center flex point will move. I mean, in the case of, I would say, the one I tested is the original Victory HV. Every inch you cut, you can see 2 to 3 degree movement from the center point. That's how it changes everything you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So how do you possibly find the result of it? It's like, wait a minute. The moment you put an insert in it, you also change that too. And on top of that, every single carbon, the moment you shoot it for 5 to 10 times, unless it's made of superbly good material, which none of them is, because in order to make a really, really good, fully, perfectly impregnated carbon arrow, it will cost you over $8 a piece to make it. And in archery, you need at least a 70% profit margin on the lower side to make money. So how much would that dozen arrow cost? It'll be over $1,300 a dozen, isn't it? When you look at retail condition. Nobody's willing to pay that price.
No.
I mean, can you make a perfect arrow? Answer is that yes, the perfect hunting arrow can be made. And I know who can make it. St. Croix, the fishing rod guy. Because they can make an arrow in different diameter, just like the floated arrow back when aerodynamic or Topeka, Kansas make, the Nitro Stinger. You know why none of those arrows fly right?
No,
because
I don't.
every arrow have a different spine.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yep, because when you pull the carbon from the thick to the thin, the spine is not consistent. And the only way to make it consistent is the machine that St. Croix did for the fishing rod. Every fiber is laid with the same tension. So after they cut it, it will be perfect. But then You're looking at $40 an arrow shaft, isn't it? Who can afford it? Yes, if you really want the Olympic and you want that route, that is the route to go. But then you also have to make special inserts, special knocks, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, archery is not simple. I mean, a lot of people forgot one thing. You said in today's archery world, especially in crossbow world, which I'm very involved with. You know what 500 feet per second translate to in miles per hour?
No.
It's over 300 miles per hour. You know what never worked in 300 miles per hour? Perfect arrow flight.
Yeah. I know it, you know, the difference between tuning a three-bladed fixed blade, like I shoot, you know, at your 280 to 290, right in that range where most shootings are. I haven't measured in a long time, but it's easier to tune there. Now, if I get this running at 320 or above, that same broadhead does not tune very well.
You got it. That's the key. This is the two. If anybody want to know two numbers, it's the 270 and 320 and 315. 270, you can pretty much do anything you want with the broadhead and the vane. It would not have major effect. But after 270, the effect begin to phase. At 315, in order for the broadhead to fly right, the broadhead has to be smaller than the profile of the vane. 315 is where everything went wrong. And not to mention, if you want to shoot a fixed blade, at 315, anything over 1 inch is not going to fly right. And that's how bad it gets. Huh?
I shoot feathers.
Yes. And do you know what happened when you shoot feathers? There's another thing you see when I do the lab radar and do a lot of tests. Feather have one condition that nobody understands. I mean, besides loud and water, feather have the fastest consumption of energy to any projectile that's over 270. I mean, the flying falcon, which is the fastest bird, is only at 200 miles per hour. You're going 300 plus. Feather ain't gonna work. As a matter of fact, you look at high-speed camera, when you shoot at about 280, the moment when you shoot it, all the feather collapsed. They literally flow down until the arrow was slow down enough for the feather to come up. The moment it comes, it's like parachutes. It slows the entire arrow down and literally creates using sound and eat up the energy to slow the arrow down even further. I mean, just like, do you remember German Kinetics? The silver frame, Marcus, the owner, the first ever, the only German two-blade broadhead that is really made on the best scale. He only shoot feathers, but he would never shoot over 280, 265. That's his magic number. I said, you got it right. You cannot shoot that high. You will never fly right. But see, right now with all the compound bow, I mean, you and I both been going through the target and the hunting situation bow. Remember, if somebody give you a 33-inch axial to axial bow and say go target ASA IBO with it, you laughed at them, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm not shooting anything that shorter.
Right, but what is the bow now everybody make?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the ridiculousness. What's the XO and XO on the R500 Raven? 4 inches, fully joined. What does the pinch on the knock to the string and angle means?
Oh, yeah, it means it's tough. The short axles, you know, with my draw length, I shoot 29. I shoot 29, and the angle of that string, that peep is so far away. I had to go to a bigger one with what I'm shooting, and it's close to my eye. I've never see through it because it's just so small. You know,
yeah, that's the reason you need like me. You need rectifiers now. Yeah, you need that lens on your peep sight, but then you make it strong, make it heavier, and then the string recoil balance is no longer right. You got a whole harmonic issue on top of it now. Because you think about it, every single thing you put on your string, you slow the bow down, you change the entire harmonic cycle of your strings too.
Yeah. Well, and I put string leeches on my strings and my cables, you know, dampen the sound.
Right. You can do that as long as you don't shoot over 270. Try to shoot that at 290. It's not going to work right.
Yeah. Now, my hunting bow is rated at 320.
Mm-hmm.
but that's what it's rated at 70 pounds, 30-inch draw length, one knock point, 350 grain arrow. I'm not sure.
Right.
My hunting arrows are actually about 4 something.
Right.
That's a
And then
different
you're
story
not,
why
you're,
they're
you're
so
29-inch draw. Yeah. And what
And
is your true draw weight?
29-inch draw length. I got a string loop on there. I got
Mm-hmm.
have a peep on there. I have the string leeches on the strings and the cables.
Mm-hmm.
All that on there because I want it quiet. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care as much about the speed as I do. I'd rather be a little quieter and a little smoother, less vibration in my hand, means less
Mm-hmm.
noise.
Well, actually, that was one thing that I did quite a bit. Just a little bit background. When I was in cyclotron, Bloomington, Indiana, doing my nuclear physics, I learned a few things. I learned about the material science called titanium. Titanium is not titanium, just like steel is not steel. Aluminum is not aluminum. There's many grades. Titanium is the only material that actually eat vibration. It literally absorbed it, and it was just like stopped it. It's no more. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Well, and on my roller skates, on my speed skates, I had titanium bolts to
Mm-hmm.
build the trucks on. I actually
Mm-hmm.
broke one of them.
Yes, you can broke titanium, just like you can broke steel. I mean, I remember one time, one gentleman out of California called me and said, Dorge, you just don't know. I make some inserts for the 166 in titanium. I said,
Yeah.
you can't do that. He told me it's lighter, it's strongest. I say, I work with titanium so early that when I broke this finger, at the first time ever, I know a GL5 titanium because it's my finger. I know what titanium is. I got it in my legs too, because I broke so many bones in my life. I say titanium is not titanium, just like you say, you want a piece of beef. You can go to Burger King and you go to Ruth Chris. They are both beef, but they are not the same.
No.
And then not to mention, just because titanium is about, on say a GL5, it is about 175% strength of 304 stainless. But doesn't mean it won't break.
Right.
And just like when you got a tube of 166 over a tube of 246, if you look at the cross section, you just give up 120% of it from the change. You expect that to be stronger? It's not strong enough. And that was one of the major issue when I remember when the 166 comes out, I'm the first one to come with the outsert. And then I found that's still not good enough. So I got what they call the stalker system. I licensed that to quite a few other people because instead of an insert, you got something sticks forward and something sticks backwards. Because it's too small. You cannot possibly put something in it. It's basic outcome in physics. And some people think they can, just because material, they can overcome it. They can't. They really cannot. It was pretty disheartening to think somebody thinks so. But you know what? Then big company bought it and they market the hell out of it and everybody bought it. Guess what? They all banned. Because they just thought it was, yes, is it less bendy than aluminum? Answer is yes. Will it still bend? Yes. Just like everything will break if you put enough power in.
Right.
Just like I got lately through Exodus, I got a lot of newer customer who all have 31, 32-inch straw with 80 pounds. What do you think is going to happen to anything?
Yeah, that's kind of a small axle and long draw length. They don't work very well.
No, it's just like the amount of power, initial power output is so high. Most people have no idea how involved it gets. Especially, I really hope that one of these days, maybe one of these days, I will do a full video takedown on how the bow, arrow, and force curve applies. Because I did with lab data with Tony Warden, the 5-time Canadian indoor champion, and
Yeah.
he's the one who did all the lab radar tests for me. It was amazed what just basic let off would do to an arrow and the size of the arrow shaft. Do you know that the thinner the arrow, the longer it takes to recover?
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't realize that.
Yes, it's called the memory effect of two dynamics. So Imagine when we were young, when we shoot in the indoor with the 2219, we can shoot 16 yards and the arrow will go in straight. When we start shooting 246 like the Beeman and the gold tips, we need 18 yards. When we go to 204, we need 20 yards, which is like the excess. You know, when the 166, it takes 22 to 23 yards before the arrow is straight. I mean, I saw so many late video of younger kids, for sure, brand new, Matthew, Hoyt, Botek, you name it, 70 pounds, no doubt, if not more. I know so many Hoyt guys told me, I'm pulling up to 72 pounds on a 29-inch draw and shooting a whitetail, a southern whitetail at 15 yards and go in 8 inches. Now you tell me what's wrong with, but 4 to 8 inches, you tell me what's wrong with this picture.
Something ain't right.
Because the arrow is not straight yet. It's like cutting a tomato with the angle of the knife.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's very simple. Go and get a tomato. Instead of putting a knife straight, angle the knife 5 degrees and try to cut it. See how much effort you need to do to put it in. Now imagine the tip of your brother doing the same thing when you're shooting it. And then to make it worse, the arrow is still flexing. So when you go in, when you go in at say 15 degree, or make it easy, 3 degree. The reaction of an arrow shaft is the opposite action of it because it's flexing. You exaggerate the flex. So where's the arrow flexing to? It's not going forward. It's the reverse factor, isn't it?
It's flexing sideways.
Correct. So whatever your forward momentum and energy is all gone. That's the reason it didn't go through. To be frank with you, in today's highlight of compound bow, if you shoot something at 2219, go back to aluminum, that thing will blow through that deer so fast. It's not even going to be funny. But if you do that, everybody will laugh at you, except the deer. No, I'm serious. I got customer coming to me and told me they straight out cannot get their brand new 85% of their bow tuned right. You know what I did? I put a Gold Tip 22. 300,000 ID shaft. And so you want speed? That thing is light. Put an 85 grain broadhead and go for it. You will not believe the result. And not to mention, these are all 3,000 Gold Tip 22. They are cheap. They're like $90 a dozen. They are like crossbow size, just an 2219. They all shoot perfect because it's this large diameter, thin wall. That shaft will recover less than 18 yards. Now the arrow is straight.
I used to shoot 25-12s.
Oh, of course, they're even better. You notice the bigger shaft recovers so much faster. And the downrange energy is so much higher. Now, for the people who don't know what those numbers means, those are Eastern numbers. The first 2 number is based on that number over 64. The second number is thousandths of an inch in wall thickness. So the 2512 is 2564 on 12,000 thickness of the wall. So it's a thinner wall. That arrow will even recover faster than a 2219. But then it's hard to find insert to go with it right. And unless you shoot Mako knock, or you can find Mako knock, unless you have really good bushing, you're not able to find any knock to fit it.
I used to bust the unit bushing for the knock all the time with them.
Yeah, because they're that accurate and they are that recoverer. And remember, those arrows after about 5 shots, you are lucky to get 9,000 strictness out of it. Because remember, those are 7,000 zero aluminum. They have so much memory in it. And when you really shoot them with, and not to mention you have 12, those are wall thickness even thinner. So the moment you pull the arrow, you better a good puller, or else every arrow after about 5 shots, you are 8,000 strictness gone, if not more.
Yeah, I know. I'd get a new dozen every year. You know, my groups are widening out, but you know, I'm struggling just to keep them in the white zone, the single spot, and then I get my new dozen, and now then I'm back into the X ring. Yeah, and that's just
correct.
I do that, set them up for hunting. I hunted with new arrows every year.
Exactly, because your memory, your metal fatigue and metal memory have not kicked in. That's the reason. Remember when we are told you practice with 6 arrow and you got your 3 arrow in your quiver, you never touch, you only shoot them once to make sure they're right. I know I was taught that all the way back in 1988 in Galleons out of Indianapolis.
Yeah, and that's what I do is I'd get them set up, get them tuned in. Those 6 arrows would be in my quiver, and then the rest of the dozen would be ready to go. And then, you know, once hunting season's over, then they'll go into shooting, you know, 3Ds and target and stuff like that.
Actually, you know, those days
yeah.
of the 2512 is actually a very good set because they are very much, if you think of today's world, it will be pretty much equivalent to a Black Eagle PS26. Because 2664 is 2512. You know, it's right, pretty much right there. Those arrows are great arrows. But you know, if you go through, say, if I do 3D with those arrows, 2 tournament max, I'm changing those. If you shoot over 60 shots and you got guys banging you, that doesn't ain't gonna last.
Yeah.
Especially with guys that are good. If you're on the 11 ring, you know they're touching you.
Yeah. I did that once at a indoor 3D shoot. I was like, we was shooting 2 arrows, and one to be good, the other one to be off. And finally, I spun it. It's like, it's bent. No wonder. So I pulled that out and used one of the other ones because I just I'd put them back in there, and I wasn't spinning them every time. And so I got in the habit of spinning them every time. If they're bent, then they're done with. And
well, actually, a lot of people use that with the pin knocks. You know that. But then you also have a problem. I remember the days when I was always in the show when ASAIBO, even on some of the tech, when I remember how I see Tim Gillingham out of Gold Tip. Every time he shot, he put the arrow out, put the knife out, and spin the arrow on the pin. Every single shot. You know why? Because you can't trust it.
Right.
And I usually he told me, if you use a knot more than 5 times, that knot is overused. And most people don't think about those. It's like when you go to car Indy, just to run an Indy, a car company would a team would run through a full 40-foot container of tires. When you really do a good tournament, if you don't run through 2-3 dozens of knots, you're not even in the game. But you know, everybody is concerned of the cost and everything.
Yeah.
But if you're really into win, that's the price to play. Same thing with killing deer. I remember I got it back then with one of my old buddies. He shot 6 arrows. None of them are the same brand, same length, same weight. I just never know how to do anything.
Yeah.
I shall not name him. But so I'll let you see how far I come along. So I mean, in archery now, in technology-wise, it's really such a big difference. And a lot of people are really not into it. Just like I'll share this with you. I got a customer call me in the middle of nowhere asking me for lighter knot. I end up spending an hour with him on discussion. He spent $4,000 on a compound bow with everything on it. And he shot at 2 deers first year. He got his own place. And he did not kill any one of them. And I told him, how far do you shoot it? He shot the first one within 10 yards. He said it go in 4 inches, the arrow goes sideways, and that's the end of it. The second deer, he said that he pulled back and it was a quarter away shot. The arrow go in about 3 inches and then the arrow swinged. The arrow dropped to the ground. And he said he did not know it because he don't have a lighter knot. That's the reason he called me. He said, I would like to see what the arrow did, but I saw like his camera sort of show what it is because he got a GoPro in front of his bow. He sort of get some hint because, you know, they are not great and you got a lighter knot, you can't really see.
Right.
But you got the hint of what the arrow is doing. Yep, that's exactly what I said it would. I finally get him hooked up with one of my dealers. I say, go for it. Get yourself some Gold Tip 22 and shoot that bow, the same bow you got. And then at this moment, turn your mark from 85% to 80%. You're going to kill some deer. And don't buy any more equipment until you actually kill something. He
Yeah,
say he went through 3 sites, 2 error rests. He was always thinking something wrong with the equipment. Yes, it's something wrong with equipment. The combination is no good. It's like, I think the best way to say it is actually somebody say, oh, Dodge make the best transmission, Ford have the best engine or whatever, or Chevy have the best chassis, whatever. Then you put a car together with that 3 companies. You think you got a good car, a good truck? No, you don't have a good truck. Because you need to, whenever you go to a boat company that you like, you need to learn the philosophy of that company and the equipment that was comparable and compatible to the philosophy of how the boat behaves. I remember the first time when the really, really true binary cam boat come, the Elite GT500. Remember that boat?
yeah,
It was so good, but nobody know how to tune it until everybody know how to shim. Or just like when I go to Beyond Parallel, it is not an easy boat. I mean, I really think that our X7 is one of the toughest boats to tune. Can it be tuned? Yes. Is it a great hunting boat for new guys?
no.
No. I would say if you want to go to archery, go and get yourself a Matthew C7 Extreme, and with a set of Gold Tip 22. Get a few wall hangers first before you go any further. I think this kind of conversation should be given to the newcomers because they get so frustrated. It's like a kid just got his driver license. Say, hey, this is a NASCAR, a Formula One, go drive.
Right.
What are we trying to do? Kill them? You know, we end up with so many of our future customers disappeared because, I mean, yes, nowadays everything is so expensive, but just because you throw money in it do not mean you get better.
Right.
It's very frustrating. I mean, like 2 years ago, I got a customer come to my door, call me. He drove about 3 hours. He's all the way in Northern Kentucky, just Iowa borderline. Drove all the way here. He showed me his bow. His sight is all the way touching the riser. He's shooting 166 with 350 grain in the front. 70 pound, 30-inch draw on the 350 spine with 350 grain in the front on the 85% aloft.
I don't
What do you
sound like
think is
that's
going to
going to
happen?
fly at all.
Yes, he told me he can't even shoot a 20 yard shooting a pie plate 3 times. He was lucky that day. But that's what everybody is trying to sell people that. Well, I mean, luckily he got one of those Matthew, the Switchback XT, one of the old ones. He's that guy. I end up setting him up for that bow, and he shot a few deers. Finally, you know, back then the bows are actually better. I think in some way the ease of use and forgiveness is what everybody seems to forget. Archery is not. I mean, most people are not capable to understand how precise ultra high tech, high power compound bow is.
Yeah, I always think beginners, I don't recommend beginners buying the high-end bows. For one, they're spending more money than they need to. And a lot of bows are a little harder to shoot because they are a higher performance. Get your lower end entry level packages when you're starting out. You know,
Well, actually, you know,
that's everything put together.
Well, actually, you know, even the low end bow today are really faster than I look at the PSE laser from last year. Side by side performance is better than my Matthew Q2. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's a single cam bow. I mean, it's going to be fast. I mean, faster performance, everything. I really think that anybody who started archery should stick with a single cam with a good string on it. Because I went through the case of how bad the string is with single cam. Oh my gosh. I remember the days. I actually start with the Q2, the MQ32, all the way to the DXT. I mean, I went through all those. And every year, I remember just before August, I would call Terry, an archery customer in Forest Park. I say, hey, Terry, get me 2 bows, all ready to go. I'm going to pick it up, set it up for my same draw length. Back then, I did no better. I was twitching 27 3/4 inch on a 70-pound bow because I was shooting a fudge double jaw release. Oh gosh. I told everybody I make every single ridiculous mistake in archery until I finally sit down and look at using my academic background and look at everything. It's like, what was I thinking? Because those are the number one thing. Those are more expensive. The greatest on the Cabela catalog front page is on the bow hunting magazine front page, full page ad. That's what I bought. And every year I got a budget of $4,000 or $3,000. I will buy whatever is on those. It do not make me better. I end up winning so many deers. I mean, just I remember I was hunting Shabanov Sapak. I talked to the time he's Alan. He's the superintendent. He said that every year for every deer you guys harvest, I got 1.2 deer dead somewhere. That's an actual number, you know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, they're, not even 50% recovery rate on deer.
Yeah, and on top of that, first of all, most people don't know how to shoot now, and even the issue they don't kill deer, and the equipment is up to par, and nobody telling them. Do you know? For me, it took me 3 years to learn the field point and broadhead do not shoot the same, because I didn't see what's going on. I just say, how did I miss the deer? It was right there. If I put a 30-yard pin on it, I know I shoot 30-yard target perfect. A broadhead do not fly the same as a field point, especially when you're over 300 feet a second.
Well, on my hunting bow, it's set up to shoot broadheads, but my field tips don't even come close to my broadheads. They're off by a couple inches. And I don't care because I don't shoot field tips out of that bow. Or if I do,
precisely. But do you know that I do not know that from first I bought a bow from 1988 all the way to 1993. No, 1992. I found that out. In 1993, I killed my first deer. It was that bad. So, I mean, I always still feel very proud. In the morning before the hunt, I will open the pack of brand new, put it together, and then screw it on top of arrow. I say, this is fresh arrow, fresh broadhead. I'm going to kill something.
Little did you know, it's not shooting straight.
I say, well, how come it's not making it? I mean, that actually happened when I was shooting the Hoy Chuck. That Hoy Chuck was hitting 5 feet left of my target at 30 yards.
That's
know the Hoy Chuck, big blade on top with 2 side blades?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Hoy Chuck don't fly through at all on a Beeman Hunter. Do you know why? Because the Beeman Hunter inserts are not perfect. Because remember the beam, you cut it and then you just glue the insert. How do you know the insert is straight? You don't. But it's okay if you got a field point, not when you have a broadhead.
that all gets exaggerated, when any misalignment there is
yeah, but I also shooting an Indian XI that shoot 305 because I was shooting a 6-inch overdraw with the TM Hunter with the extreme overdraw.
Yeah,
that's with my arrow only 26.5 inch.
Yeah,
you can see how exaggerated everything is.
Yeah,
trust me, I make every single mistake out there, and I did not know. I was thinking, yeah, I got the latest and the greatest. I bought the first ever machine riser from Indian XI because it was the first ever machine. I remember Miles Keller is the one who promoted that. That's how many years ago.
Well, I know, things can affect differently. I had one guy, he had a sight that he, great big long one for target, and he'd put it on in one spot. Another time he'd put it on a little closer, a little further away. I says, you got to put them in the same spot. They're not going to hit in the same spot. And he says, oh yeah, well, it's like, well, let's prove it. Move your sight all the way in and shoot your 20-yard pin. Now move it all the way out and shoot your 20-yard pin. And then do the same for your 30, your 40, all your pins. And I was like, oh, it does make a difference.
Well, archers are a very stubborn group. I will tell you a really, really funny but disgusting story. I was hunting in Staff Rock, Illinois. I was all by myself in the middle of a deep freeze. I bring myself a camel sleeping bag with me when I go hunting. I saw a pair of a father and a son. They told me he just killed a deer 2 days ago. I look at his bow. His arrow was touching the shelf of the bow with the whisker biscuit to start with. And he twisted his cables together. He take the cable off and they wrap the cable onto each other 2 times. And he take the cable rod out. Imagine what I just tell you.
Yeah, I don't even know you get the arrow off of it without it blowing up.
He told me, well, look, he said, what's wrong with it? Where's your cable guard? He said, the cable guard is not needed. I'm using the cable guard to support further on the arrow. So the arrow is supported by the cable, the whisker biscuit, and the shelf. I said, every time you shoot it, the veins are all wrinkled. He said, yeah, that proves that everything supports everything.
Yeah.
And I you know what I learned in my professional life? If you don't have anything great to say, shut your mouth. I said, wow, you kill a deer with that. The only thing in my mind is that deer was so freaking unlucky.
Yeah.
How can you be shot by an arrow like this? And his 3 arrows are all he got a 1 aluminum and 2 carbon arrows. They are all not the same length.
Yeah, and somebody was not too smart when or didn't know any better.
Right, that's exactly. You see, that's another thing about the current archery shop that we talk with. A lot of times they want you to buy the package and walk away. I think the days of me holding hand to show customer how to get things done right, I think that's what really needed with this high-end equipment. And most shops don't want to do it. They really do not want to do it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I know when I had my store, you buy a bow, you're getting shooting instruction with it. And I'm setting it up. And, on the lower end bows, I can eyeball them and be really close. And, higher ones, I'd actually use, tools to set it up. But, you're getting shooting instruction because I want you to know how to shoot. And I want the bow set up to fit you. And the better you shoot, the more likely you are to stay into archery. More likely you are to come back and buy more parts from me, more arrows, more everything else. When you're ready to upgrade, I'd start you off with the low end bow. Back then, the Nova bows was the bows, the entry level bows, and those are good bows to start with. A lot of people, I sold a lot of them, and get set up, and they didn't have a lot invested in them. And later on, they'd come back and buy more arrows or upgrade the rest, upgrade your sight. Upgrade the bow.
I think the most important is the upgrade and the guidance. I really think archery, in some way, I always believe that archery should be just like an old apprenticeship program because you need guidance to teach. Just because you got YouTube video don't mean anything. There's too much in it. And I think most guys, just like right now, my advice is that drop your bow speed down to 270. Get your arrow size up. You'll be good. Go kill something first. Yeah. Well, I think we just wasted about an hour discussing. I hope it's not too bad for you.
No, it's interesting. The technical aspects. Having an engineering background, that technical stuff is kind of interesting to me as well. So,
because a lot of people don't really have any of those, and not to mention they don't prove it. Because, at Eastern, back in the 1970s and 60s, 70s, and 80s, Eastern did a lot of R&D. And they published a lot of results. After that, I don't think anybody's doing anything. Until you, just like in every industry, if there's no R&D, how are you going to really prove your improvements? I mean, it's like, I'll tell you how bad one product is. That's so stupid, the point of stupid of me. 1 year, Cabela come out with the weight transfer inserts for like $18 for 3. I bought it. Think about it. Mechanical engineer, look at that thing. Do not click. It was on first coverage of Cabela back in 1980s, 90s. I bought 2 of them. I just say, if they say it's good, it must be good. Come on, I got a mechanical engineering background.
Yeah, think
What
about
did
it.
I tell you? Think about it. Because see, I always believe in you by US law, if anybody do false advertising, they will be sued. So nobody would do that.
Yeah, wrong.
But exactly. Nowadays, the media, you can't trust nothing anyway. So we just wasted a good hour. So we do this again sometime and have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe next time when we do it, we can go. I mean, just like I did with Exodus, you can find a topic you want to deep dive. I will do my best with you. How's that sound?
Yeah, that'd be good. We can go in a little deeper on a subject and you know really give
Yeah,
it
just like
kind
arrow
of,
shop behavior. I think that itself, I mean, I can easily burn 3 hours on arrow shop behavior with material science. That
yeah,
itself is, I think most people don't really want to dive into it, but I think that it's something that's the first thing that people should dive into.
yeah. It's interesting, you know, to know. I know I don't shoot really fast. I shoot feathers. I just cause
Mm-hmm.
I that's what I grew up in the 60s was I had the
Mm-hmm.
choice of feathers or feathers.
Mm-hmm.
And either wood shafts. Then eventually you'd have aluminum shafts, but mostly
Mm-hmm.
it's wood shafts and feathers, or wood shafts and feathers, and either longbow or recurve, and either wood or fiberglass. Yeah, that was my
Mm-hmm.
options in archery. And
Right. I think it's the same thing. I mean, since I was into cars, I mean, it's just like in the 1940s. If you go over 70 miles per hour, you got to win Indianapolis 500.
yeah,
Now you go into 220, you're not even in the goal.
yeah,
And I remember, I specifically remember because I was a cop for a while, a V16 with 8-liter engine and go 72 miles per hour and win Indy. Now, if you got a nice 3-cylinder or like 3-liter, you're gonna blow everybody out of the smoke with a good turbo.
yeah,
Or not to mention the new Formula One, you go into electric. Oh my gosh, it's like I'm not even ready for that.
yeah. Let's you know let's get together again sometime and we'll dig a little deeper in some of that and maybe we can even share some videos. You know, if you got some videos, slow motion videos, arrows or stuff like that,
Well,
we can
actually, I got
share that
some.
as well. And
I can definitely share some of it, but not a lot of it because see, I learned one thing. It takes about 2 days to get a 3-second video out. Okay, and that's a lot more information than most people recognized.
oh yeah,
And I did that once, and I lost 2 patents to people who view my video and notice what I have not discovered yet.
oh yeah. We
Yep,
don't want to
that's
get that out there.
that. Now you know why I no longer share my ultra high speed video that take forever and a day to set up, because that is something that you do not recognize. Just like I take a lot of slow motion video on how a crossbow shots and how the arrow on each individual brand of crossbow behave. As I say again, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. Some of the crossbow, you really look at it, how the hell did they even shoot right?
Yeah,
But if you look at it, then you know how to improve it. Because if you know what they are wrong, then you can improve it. Because see, knowing and able to measure is the #1 key if you want to do something. Guessing
right.
is not. But in the archery, everybody never confirms. They just guess. And then they mark it.
Yeah, they just like, oh, this should make it better and just go with it. Yeah, and
Right, because they think, mm-hmm,
I know what you mean on videos because I do YouTube videos as well. And you know, if I record 3 hours worth of video content, it might
mm-hmm.
take me 4.5 hours just to end up with a 30 or 45 minute video in the end.
No, it's not just that. Because when you do high-speed video, there's a lot of things cannot be seen normally. Just like if you do 15,000 frames per second, that 3 seconds is 45,000 frames. If you put
Right.
it down to like a normal 30 frame, that's 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so many things happening there. And that's stuff that you never dreamed that is important because you don't know better. I mean, it's like the first time when I do all the video on arrow vein, I did not know better. And some of them, I was lucky I pulled back the video so that nobody able to grab patents on it. And for the fundamentally, I own the patent to the airfoil. But airfoil is not just airfoil. Like You got airfall, we actually put smoke and look at how the wind behaves. There's so much more in arrow through veins behavior. That was really the word disgusting will come into mind because people don't understand. When you have high speed over 315 feet per second, the vein and air interaction, just the vein and air. We are not talking the shaft reaction. I would just throw a little bit something for people to think, to dabble. If you put a quick spin, the original quick spin, on say on a beeman, and shoot it out a 70-pound bow, the amount of air that arrow is going to affect is over 18 inch in diameter. Think about it. 18 inch is larger than a foot in basketball. That is how big a column of air that arrow is disturbing.
That's a lot of air to disturb.
Yes. But if you do not do a wind tunnel with smoke, how the hell would you know that?
No, you wouldn't.
And you figure the arrow is that thin, right? How would it be that 18 inch of air is being disturbed by that arrow? Now imagine the wind is blowing 30 miles per hour. You got an arrow that have a wind profile of 18 inch. What do you think is going to happen to it?
I wouldn't think it'd fly very well.
Correct. And people think that the arrow size is critical, right? Thinner the arrow, the air can blow through it. But they do not think of what is the reaction of the vein by the wind when it shoots. Just like you got 3 blades, right? If the 3 blade move, especially on vein, they're sideways. How much of a column of air is that 3 blades, broadhead and vein disturbing?
I wouldn't.
We'll just stop it there and then let people think, because this is getting real. Because see, you can be totally wrong at 270 because of what I just talked about. The moment you go over 270, that aerodynamic factor becomes such a big critical factor. Because just like you remember the Carter days, no driving over 55,
right?
Because when you go from 50 or 60, your gas just consumptions go to 12%. That's the reason national state limit 255, because you're trying to save gas. Oh, it's only 5 miles per hour. It's no big deal, right?
Right.
No, it's a big deal. Remember, that's a 55 miles per hour. Our arrow are flying close to 180 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's fast.
Yeah, look at all the new. They were 200. They do a 270 feet per second. Okay, that's 184 miles per hour. You think aerodynamics not going to be a factor? Just for actual number from Formula One, at 175 miles per hour, Formula One use 82% of its energy to push the air.
That's why race cars draft. That's why when I was speed skating, you're outside or even inside, you're drafting. You're
correct. But see,
and we're going way slower than that.
Correct. But arrow is also smaller. But that's the reason smallness is such a big deal in arrows. Just like when I go crossbow, like the when I start shooting over 500, the crosswind signature, that means the profile of the arrow and the wing and the broadhead. If it's over 1 inch, it's not going to make it. Yeah, look at the 10 points. Those are actual 515 feet per second. Just think about it. 515 feet per second is equal to 351 miles per hour.
That's fast.
Yes, and you expect what part of the vein or broadhead or shaft you can think that can handle the wind if you do not do it precisely?
Yeah, that's definitely something we got to think about, and a lot of us don't.
Well, on the next time we meet, we'll dive into this. All right. So shall we call it?
Yep. Yeah, that sounds good. It's been great talking with you. I learned a lot tonight on different aspects of archery, and some of the stuff you just explained kind of my thoughts on what was going on. You just kind of elaborated why it does what it's doing, and which I recognized is going on. The faster arrows are harder to turn. You tune fixed blades. That's why a lot of them go to mechanical blades, because it doesn't affect it as much once you get to higher speeds. I knew that, but now I know why.
No, there's a lot more to it. I mean, we will discuss that in next time. I'll actually, if your listener is interested, I do have a lot of lectures, literally lectures. You can go to Firenock TV on YouTube. If you click on my lectures, inside the comment field, I actually give you that 70 to 120 pages of lecture notes in it. So I'm not holding back all the information that I teach. I'm giving you actual lecture notes, so you can study on your own. Yes, I know it's like 3 or 6. I mean, if you really go through it, it's about 18 credit hours of physics, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
But hey, until you understand how do you able to behave, you have no core knowledge.
Right. And the more knowledge you have about what's going on, the more you understand when you're having trouble with something. Oh, it could be this. Maybe let's figure out what's going on.
I remember when the chap from Excellence come to me, he literally just say, he shoots 32-inch draw, 80-pound bow. He can't get his bow. He say, is the bow not right? He changed 2 size, 3 rest, 3 sets of arrows, and still not shoot right. Because it's like he's chasing ghosts.
Right.
The fundamental is wrong. I finally, you know what I did? I told him, drop freaking your bow from 80, 90% down to 80. And then shoot a 300 ID shaft and drop your poundage to 75. Go for it. Everything should right.
Yeah. I know lots of times it's not as much the equipment setup. Sometimes it's the shooter that can bother too. I remember setting up a dropaway rest for a guy that was he could not get his arrows to group or nothing. So his idea was, well, let's get a dropaway because the rest isn't set up right. So I set it up. You got to shoot a dropaway to make sure they shoot. I took an arrow and I shot, back another one, shot, stuck 2 arrows together. And he come in and said, I just could not get it to shoot. Well, I just stuck 2 arrows together. Bow is set up perfectly now. So if you're having trouble, it's you.
Well, you see, this is the reason when the light not come into play. Just like when I used to help NASP quite a bit, National Science After School Program. The best way to get the kids out of talking the bow. You know how many people talking the bow? When they shoot the bow, they freaking talk it like crazy. Put a light out on it and instantly you take care of the problem. We'll talk about it next time. Well, okay. My wife is waiting for dinner.
Yeah, go eat. Hey, it's
all right. Have fun.
Been great talking with you, and we'll just pick this up another time. And this is interesting.
Yeah, just let me know and we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Then before you call me next time, make sure you give me a few talking subjects. Otherwise, like today, we dive entire world and back into our history.
Hey, yeah, people who have listened to this podcast, we start archery and we go off into whatever tangent we want to go to. I don't really have an agenda for them. So, it's whatever we want to talk about. And,
that's actually sounds not bad. I mean, I did that with the Exodus on some of the co-hosts because sometimes I pull a few of my friends come in and we just chit chat. That's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, great. Nice
fun.
Talking to you.
Yeah.
All right.
Talking to you. My name is Roy Canterbury. I'm hosting on Arch Talk 101, and we'll see you on the next one.